So it's been just over 8 years since Battlefield Bad Company 2 was released, and in that time we've had 4 full Battlefield games, but for a lot of people, including myself, Bad Company 2 was the first proper Battlefield game that you played. Now for me, I got into Battlefield with 1943 on the PlayStation 3, and after about a month of playing that, I had to buy the latest game, which was, at the time, Bad Company 2. Now I did buy this once again on console, but I did eventually purchase Battlefield 3 on PC, and from there the rest is history. Now for whatever reason, Battlefield fans seem to unanimously love Bad Company 2, even now there's plenty of servers available in multiple different game modes. There's even enough servers in fact that I could just play on European servers, we'll have to play on Asian, Oceanian, or even American servers. Now for whatever reason the game is just incredibly fun. I have so many fond memories of playing just on my own, or even playing with friends and having as much fun doing either one. It has aged a bit, and there's a few features and mechanics that later games improved on or just totally removed, and honestly playing that game, Bad Company 2, compared to Battlefield 1, you could totally feel the difference in how many improvements have been made to the franchise. Bad Company 2 does seem more focused on simplicity, a more minimalist style than the later games. This does limit the gameplay slightly. It does mean that you spend less time sorting your guns and loadout and more time learning your firearm and actually playing the game, but there's not really much in the way of gun customization. There's no dedicated customization in the sense that if you want an ACOG rifle in your gun, you can choose between that or having bonus ammunition or body armor. You can't have an ACOG sight and body armor and extra ammo. You have to choose one or the other, and occasionally a lot of people run just Reliant sights. Although I like the old system, I definitely prefer having the ability to customize my guns without compromising other parts of my loadout. It just means I have so much more freedom and ability to change it up how I want. There's also no 64-player servers. The maps are much bigger and more spaced out than their Battlefield games, and Bad Company 2 has a focus on moving as one unit to a different flag, sort of creating a main channel for the whole team to flow down, creating 2 combat zones where the whole team will work, but at the same time having outer flags to space it out. Once Battlefield 3 came out, they kind of changed it up a little bit, but still somewhat kept the main idea. You could still work as a unit, and there was still this kind of focus on getting everyone to one point, but the difference was there was no channel where you'd sort of be fighting all the way there. It would simply be everyone moves to the centre point, fights amongst the fight in the centre point, and then moves out to the other areas. Teams also will always hold one flag pretty much indefinitely. This does make a more even game, being that one team always has a flag and there's never much beating down, and there's always a chance you can win just by fighting back. This does, however, create less coordinated teamwork, as occasionally you find that people can just go off and do their own thing and do perfectly well enough by doing that. Now having a central flag or a main area for combat does create something of a battle zone, making the whole game more exciting and getting this bigger emphasis on closer combat and a faster pace. You could still find very open maps in later games, and quite often or not there's more than one combat area where there's a flag on the right side that has a big area to it, and then one on the left and one in the middle, creating 3 combat points, and one sort of front line. You break through a front line and you take the whole team down. Overall, Battlefield is still Battlefield, and they didn't want to change the game up so much with Battlefield 3 that Bad Company 2 seemed alien, and obviously they wanted to improve the system then, and honestly I think they did quite a good job. I do think it's possible that the reason people like Bad Company 2 so much is because it was the last game that didn't really have this big focus on closer combat. I have nothing against the closer combat. Personally, I prefer the system. It's obvious though that since the start of Battlefield, the whole focus was to be this more open area, and then the start of Battlefield 3, the focus was to have closer combat areas, more of a focus on sort of tight in close combat, and obviously that's then progressed into Battlefield 1 where we have underground tunnel systems creating very tight systems, and there you'll find a lot of gunfights happening. So since it's been 8 years since we've last seen a Bad Company game, will there be a Bad Company 3 anytime soon? Personally, I think there's a 0% chance of that. Battlefield 1 drew in a hell of a lot of players, and by bringing out a new Bad Company game, there's too much of a risk of alienating the new fan base. It might sound strange to say that Bad Company is an alien franchise in some way, but it kind of is. It's obviously not done in the same way most Battlefield games are done. The whole idea of Bad Company was meant to be more off the cuff, more sort of arcadey, and by introducing that, Battlefield fans, new Battlefield fans, might be a little bit alienated and maybe not buy the game, so it's a huge risk for EA. maybe we'll actually see a new game somewhere down the line where Battlefield has had a massive increase in popularity, and there's a huge chance of bringing out Bad Company 3 because people are going to play it and there's no risk of a massive franchise decrease. Personally, I really hope that happens someday. So now hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. I kind of want to go through all of the Battlefield games from Bad Company 2 up to Battlefield 1, sort of getting ready for the release of Battlefield 2018. Obviously there won't be any sort of scheduled release in them, I'll just release them whenever I finish the video, but it's something I quite like to do just in order to sort of recap Battlefield up until this point. Now for some recent Battlefield 1 news, we have had the leak of 7 new guns coming into Battlefield 1. Currently found in the CTE files. These guns aren't confirmed, and honestly I think 1 or 2 of them may be totally fake and just not in the game at all, but honestly I definitely think there's a chance of a lot of these coming out. So first of all we have the Thompson M1919. This is obviously the sort of predecessor to the Tommy gun or the Thompson that eventually found its way into World War II. This is the very early version with the grip on the front, and honestly this thing looks awesome, and I was really hoping they added it with Apocalypse, but they didn't. So I'm kind of happy they added it in after the main coverage of the game, kind of acting as if it's guns that were brought in after the war. So along with the Thompson M1919 we have the Thompson M1919 Annihilator. This one simply has a barrel shard over the front. I don't know if there's any difference between the two. I don't think there will be. I think honestly what this is one of them is an early design and the other one's a later design. Who knows which way it is. Maybe we'll have both of them and there just happen to be some minor differences, but honestly I think there's no difference between the two, and I think one is going to be removed while the other will remain. And then we have the Fedorov Digtyarev, I think it is. Obviously that's a terrible pronunciation, but I don't speak Russian at all, so I have to give it a go. This thing is essentially the Fedorov rifle with a water jacket on the front of it. It's definitely a real design, but it's honestly really strange, and I'm not sure what difference it's going to make compared to the other rifle. The magazine appears to be the same size, and I know the original gun should have a bipod, so who knows really if they're going to change the magazine size to make it bigger, in which case it's not being true to real life, but then again there has to be some reason to have a water jacket on the front of this gun. And next up then we have the Winchester Burton LMR. This is another gun that I was hoping was coming with Apocalypse, and this gun has the cool dual magazines, both 20 rounds, and when one magazine is empty, you pull it out and chuck it away, and the other one then drops into place. So basically you always have two 20 round magazines ready to go, and you can change between the two. Who knows how this will work in game, and hopefully it has some kind of cool feature to it, but who really knows what's going to happen with that, and honestly that's one I can definitely see coming out. And then we have the Mosin Nagant 38. I think this one is fake personally. The 38 probably alleviates to the 1938 Mosin Nagant, which obviously is far too ahead in the future, so I think actually it's an early design of the Nagant that we got in the Name of the Tsar DLC. Unless maybe they're sort of using it as a code name and 38 has nothing to do with the 38 Nagant rifle. At the same time, we already have a Nagant infantry, so I can kind of see this one being just a dud. So now finally we have the last two weapons. The first one is the Colt Single Action Army. This is a revolver and is kind of the poster boy of Wild West revolvers. This thing is known as the gun that won the West. Also known as the Colt 45. I cannot wait to use this thing, and hopefully we have some kind of fire fan mode where you fire the hammer on the back of the rifle or the back of the gun in order to make it fire very quickly. I think honestly that'd be really cool to see, and I'm kind of happy to see this gun in the game anyway. And lastly we have the BAR A2. This was the variant that was eventually used in World War II if I'm not mistaken, and the main difference between the two of them is that the BAR A2 had a few changes compared to the original BAR 1918 version. The most interesting of those changes being the fact that you could change the fire rate on it to make it fire slightly slow, making it more accurate, or fire quicker, making it better in close quarters. Hopefully we'll see that feature, and honestly I can see that being kind of helpful to have, but I don't know if we'd actually need a second BAR gun. Is there really much point if we already have one? Currently there's no photo of this one, unlike all the others, so maybe this one isn't actually real, but then again they could have just not put photos in for it and it's definitely coming out. Either way I can see it coming out, but I can also see it just being a test for the original BAR. Regardless, hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you kind of like this sort of general video with a bit of Battlefield 1 news at the end of it, please tell me that down below in the comments. I kind of enjoy doing it this way. It means I can do it all in one video without doing it in multiple videos. And hopefully I plan to get into doing more videos soon. So until then guys, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.